Holly. Welcome to Purpose, where we are going through the Bible, learning the stories. Why? So that we can get to know God better. So we can learn how to love Him the way that He deserves to be loved. And so we can learn how to love other people the way they deserve to be loved. Because that's our only reason to be on this planet. Love God and love each other. We left off with Exodus chapter 15, verse 22. So Moses has led the Israelites out of Egypt, out of slavery to Pharaoh, and now they're in the wilderness. They're headed to the land of milk and honey, the land of Canaan. But first they're going to stop by Mount Sinai. So they're on their way to Mount Sinai. And they just, I guess you could say, watched the whole Egyptian army be defeated by God. All their horses and chariots got swallowed up in the Red Sea, which had to be a huge thing. And now they're on their own, and they're headed to Mount Sinai. These people have been slaves for 400 years. They don't know how to be on their own. And there's like 1 million of them. There's hundreds of thousands of people. 600,000 men, plus all of the women, plus the children. It's like over 1 million people going. This is not a small group. There's no grocery stores. How do you feed 1 million people? How do you get water for 1 million people? I mean, this is a big undertaking. It's impossible. In today's world, think, if we had to evacuate 1 million people, we wouldn't be able to do it. We'd sit around, what do we do? What do we do? You can't do it. Only God can do it. And so He's teaching them how to trust Him. This is a story of us. This is a story of our journey to get to God, to learn how to love Him more and more. It's our journey to heaven. How do we get to heaven? How do we get to the land of milk and honey? Well, God's teaching them some lessons. This is what you have to do. The first lesson, give me all your hopes and dreams. That's it. Just give me all your hopes and your dreams, and trust that I know the big picture and you don't. Oh, that's a tough one. I can't give God all of my hopes and dreams. I don't know if anybody can, because it may not turn out the way we want. So what I do, and what you might want to do, is just pray to God the thing you want most in this world, the things that are the most important to you. You can ask Him for what you want, but then say, it's your will, God. Whatever you do, I trust you, even if it's not what you want. You trust Him because He knows the big picture. And then ask Him to touch your heart. Ask Him to teach you how to love Him the way He deserves and to trust Him the way He deserves. And He will. It won't be a big, huge thing, but little by little, He will get you to the place where you trust Him more and more, even with the big things. So that's what He's doing with these Israelite people. Give me all your hopes and dreams. The second thing He taught them, and that He's going to keep teaching them, is that even when you're scared, even when things are not going the way you want, you have to trust me. You have to trust me. And now this third lesson He's going to teach them is He will provide for them. He will take care of them. They just have to turn to Him. He'll take care of them. So they're in the desert, and there's not a McDonald's, there's not a grocery store, and they're getting thirsty. So they see a little lake or pond or something, and it's got water in it, and they, run up to it to get a drink, and it tastes terrible. It's bad water, can't be drank. So they're griping about Moses. It says they're murmuring against Moses. Anytime you hear that the Israelites are murmuring against Moses, means they're turning away from God. They ran into something hard, and they're like, well, forget it. God's not going to help me. Because they were thirsty. I mean, they are Sahara desert kind of thirsty here, So God told Moses, take your rod or a stick. I think it was take a stick, throw it in the water, and the water will be good. So that's what he did. He threw this stick into the water, or a rod, or a tree or something. I can't remember what it was. And the water became sweet. It was good water. He took bad water and he turned it into good water. Anything bad that happens to us, from something small and little, like we didn't get a promotion at work, or we can't afford the kind of car we really have our dreams on, or whatever that little disappointment is to you, to the biggest disappointment in your life. Somebody you love gets sick, somebody you love dies. That's like the biggest heartache you can think of. God can take anything bad that happens to us and turn something good out of it. He can make something good come from that horrible thing, even if it's just getting you a little closer to him. He'll take something good from that bad, or he'll take that bad and make something good. I mean, look what he did with Jesus. That was the worst thing in the world that ever happened. We killed God. We crucified God, and he saved everybody. So the greatest good that's ever happened in the world came from the worst bad. So they got their water, and now they're trudging along some more, and I'm a little hungry here. I could stand to eat something. So they're griping again, and they're always like, what'd you bring us out here into the desert so we can die? We had all the bread we could eat back in Egypt. You bring us out here to the desert, now we're gonna starve to death. Way to go, Moses. They're murmuring against Moses again. So God tells God tells Moses, don't worry about it. I'm gonna send down bread from heaven. They can eat the food of angels will be brought to them. And he told Moses, there's rules for this manna, this bread. It's like a frost that's going to be on the ground, and when they scoop it up and put it together, it'll make like a bread. It had to have been the best tasting bread ever. But anyway, he told Moses, there are rules. You can't be greedy about it. You can't take more than is your share. Take enough for you and your family for each day. And the day before the Sabbath, take double what you need, so you've got plenty for the Sabbath day, so you don't have to work on the Sabbath. And so the next morning they wake up and there's this like frost all over the ground, and they go out and they gather it up, and they've got all this bread, more than they can ever imagine, more bread than they could ever need. But they only take what their own family needs. You can't take more. Somebody tried to take more, turned to like worms and mold, and it was disgusting. Can't take more than what is yours, what is rightfully yours. And so Moses told them, your murmurings, when they're griping about Moses, it's not against me and my brother Aaron. You're murmuring against God. How many times do you gripe about people throughout the day? How many times do you gossip about people throughout the day? When we talk bad about somebody else, we're talking bad about God. Why? Because Jesus is in them. God is in them. The Holy Spirit is in them. Their soul is connected to God. He's with them. He's in all of us. And so when you talk bad about somebody, you're talking about God's kid, and he doesn't like that. I'm in trouble. And then he sent them quail. Tons of quail, all these birds just laying dead on the ground. They didn't even have to kill them. He gave them an overabundance of food. Overabundance, more than they could ever have hoped for. And that's what God does. He'll give us more than we can ever dream of. Just not always in the ways that we want it to be. So this bread that God gave them, it's going to fill them up. It's going to save them. It's life-giving bread. They are hungry. They weren't just a little hungry. They were hungry people. But they're also hungry spiritually for God. They don't know him. They don't have a relationship with him. So it's also spiritual bread. When they eat this spiritual bread, they're going to know God's taking care of them, that God loves them. In fact, he gave them this bread 40 years. They never had to hunt. They never had to look for any food. He fed them 40 years. The Eucharist is our spiritual bread. Going to communion is our spiritual bread. It's God filling up our spirit and feeding us, feeding our soul every time we get it. He's still feeding us. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then he asked them to put some of the manna in a jar and put it where he was. You know, he's like a cloud in the day and fire at night, and they're going to build him a tent eventually. He wants that manna kept with him. It is God. The manna we are eating is a gift from God. It is God when you have the communion, when you have the Eucharist. So he wants the people to know it's not just bread that you're getting. This is a gift from God, which is kind of cool. So they're moving on, still moving through the wilderness, and they start griping again. Oh, we're so thirsty. There's nothing out here to drink. And they didn't trust God. Again, they're thinking we're going to die out here. It's better that we stayed with Pharaoh. Better to be in sin than to suffer believing in God. That's what they're saying. I'd rather live a happy little life in sin where all I care about is what's going on in the world and me. What can I get? Than to try to build up a relationship with God, because things don't always go our way when we're building up our relationship with God. But they don't always go our way when you're living a life just for yourself either. So, you know. So they said, why'd you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? Oh, they're still not trusting in God. So God told Moses, go on to this rock. You're going to see a rock when you get to this place called Horeb. Take your rod and strike the rock, and water will come out of it. Life-giving water. Anytime you hear about water in the Bible, it's Jesus. Jesus is our life-giving water. You can't live long without water. You can't live long without food. Jesus is our food and water. He's what's going to feed our soul. If you're hungry for God, talk to Jesus. If you're sad and you're scared and you're lonely, talk to Jesus. He'll fill you up. The more you talk to him, the more water and bread you're going to get. But you have to hang out with him. You have to tell him what's on your mind. You have to ask him to touch your heart and show you the way and show you how to love him the way he deserves to be loved, and he'll do it. Ask him to build up your relationship with him. He'll do it. He will feed you. He'll give us an abundance of food and water. We'll have manna out the ears. We'll have a rock with water flowing out of it. I mean, have you ever seen that? No, not human-made, you know, unless it's got pipes and stuff in it and it's human-made. Nowhere does a rock just start shooting water out of it. That was a God thing. That can only be a God thing. And so God is trying to teach them to trust him. Trust me. Things are going to go wrong. We are going to be thirsty and hungry in the desert. We're not going to get the promotion at work. Our family's going to be fighting. There's an election coming up. I don't even have to go there. It's the year 2024. Trump versus Harris. I don't know when you'll be watching this video, but it's a nasty election year. I don't know if in the future they'll get better or not, but this is just nasty. And I have a lot of thoughts on that, and none of them have to do with the candidates. But anyway, I won't go there. But all we have to do when we're scared, when we're angry, when we're feeling betrayed, when we're lonely, is go to God, talk to him, hang out with him. Jesus has felt every emotion we will ever feel. Talk to him. Ask him for help. Ask him to show you the way. Ask him for your bread and water, and he'll give it to you. Well, when we come back, we'll find out how Moses is doing, leading these people out of the land, or out of Egypt into the land of milk and honey. And I pray for you. I pray that when hard times hit you, you will ask God to help you use that experience to grow closer to Him. Ask God to help you love Him the way He deserves to be loved. Ask God to give you peace and comfort. And I pray that you do have peace and comfort and wisdom. It won't be like skipping through a field of flowers, but if it makes it better, it can't hurt, right? Well, I hope you have a great day today, everyone. Bye-bye.